Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. As you well know, because you decided to attend this, we're going to be discussing content-driven commerce. And I'll just introduce myself first before I introduce them so you know why I'm saying what I'm saying. My name's Todd Crawford. I've been in the performance marketing industry since 1998. I've helped found Commission Junction, and I'm one of the founders of Impact Radius, the company that I work at now. And I've been fortunate enough to kind of be in the middle of performance marketing, so I've worked a lot with publishers, advertisers, and agencies since 1998, so I've seen a lot change. And just in the last year, I talked to a lot of advertisers and agencies about their affiliate programs, and probably the single constant topic that I hear is the desire for more content-driven affiliates, more bloggers. Advertisers love it. I think, from a consumer perspective, it's a great experience. They're very influential in the purchase consideration. And, it's a little bit of a mix of affiliates, right? You've got your coupon, you've got your loyalty, you've got your deal sites. And content really is kind of almost the elusive partnership that advertisers want. Most advertisers, when you look at their program, maybe 10 to 15% of their affiliates fall into that gap if they're a retailer. And so there's this thirst for these types of partnerships. And I think part of that, what we want to discuss is why that is and what types of affiliates and how you can find those types of affiliates, but also really think about it from their perspective. So if you are a blogger, this is going to be great because you're going to learn a lot about what it takes to become a big blog that can make decent money. And then also, if you're an advertiser, what you need to think about, or an agency, when trying to engage these content-driven affiliates. So first, let me just introduce the panelists. I have Vlad Dusil of PurseBlog.com. I've got his site up here. You can see that. Why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about you and your site? Just a quick introduction.
So I'm actually the co-founder of PurseBlog. Aside from my undying love for handbags. No, that's actually a lie. It was my wife, then girlfriend, and we started 10 years ago. And it was just sort of like a fun project at first until we realized that there was a real potential to drive some sales and make money in the affiliate space. And then eventually, about a year later, we turned it into full-time occupation. We now have a team of 8 full-time, a bunch of part-time contributors. Our forums are probably the biggest forums in the fashion space online, period. Have about 26 million entries there. And it's been an exciting ride going from basically null to the beast that is today, basically the authority in the designer accessories realm online.
Right. And then we have Oliver Roup from VigLink, who's one of your partners that's helped you get into the revenue side of the blogging business.
Indeed.
So go ahead and give yourself a...
Sure. I'm Oliver Roup. I'm the founder CEO of VigLink. VigLink helps publishers, and we're lucky to count Vlad as a customer, to monetize their content. We're the leader in content-driven commerce, and it's a bunch of automated tools for publishers to drive revenue from the content they're building anyway. And we use a lot of tricks to drive the publisher as much revenue as possible and let them just focus on what they like, what they're good at, which is creating content.
And that brings up a good point. Anybody that's blogging or thought about blogging or started blogging and stopped, it's almost always started as passion, right? Somebody has something
Absolutely.
they're really interested in and they want to write about it and share it. The challenge with that is it's not a paying job usually on day one, right? You build a website and you hope 1 or 2 friends, family start to read it, and you hope Google loves your content and starts to rank you so people find you. But the passion of writing, the commitment can, it's not your job. So you're kind of doing this on your own. And at some point, what most bloggers do is they get tired of doing it because there's not really much going on with it. And so the challenge is how do you have enough time to work, play, be passionate about your blog, and hopefully start to see some revenue, which helps keep you engaged, build your readership, and grow, right? So real quick, how'd you do it? No. Think about it. You and your wife, 10 years ago.
Yep.
Just a fun thing. Did you go into it thinking we're going to make this our sole form of income?
I mean, for us personally, I sort of had a feeling it could work out that way. I knew nothing about the vertical. I mean, fashion was just, I was a complete novice to it. I had dabbled in affiliate marketing before in other markets while in college, but I had absolutely no idea, and it was an absolute love child of my wife's passion for the subject and my know-how of the affiliate realm, and then sort of transitioning that knowledge into that vertical. And then there were obviously a lot of struggles along the way, just because 10 years ago fashion was completely new to the affiliate realm. Very few programs. There were a bunch of merchants that don't even exist anymore, like eLuxury. That was a big luxury merchant owned by LVMH Group, and they eventually completely disappeared. And so there was a lot of educating the merchants along the way. There was a lot of stuff for us to learn along the way, and obviously adjusting the content and always looking at what kind of content responds with our readers and what really drives the sales. So and then like you said, in the beginning it made close to zero money. I mean, the first month we made I think with AdSense we made like $1.53. It was quite pathetic. But we believed in our product, we believed in the longevity of it, and just stuck with it and stayed consistent. And that's what eventually, no matter what it is that you're passionate about, whether it's, we're just discussing watches. I have a ton of friends who are absolutely bananas about collecting watches, vintage watches, stuff like that. And they build a site around it, and then it becomes an authority within like a year's time, just because of the voice and the passion, and it translates in the content, and that's what garners the readers.
So 1 year in,
Yep.
where are you guys then? What's happened?
A year in, we're at a point where I'm dropping out of grad school, and we're both working at it full time.
Still just the two of you?
Still just the two of us, correct. Affiliate had been about 50% of our income, aside from display ads, just CPM-based type of stuff. Full-time employment for the both of us. It was interesting. It was nerve-wracking, but.
So you're sticking at it. You're producing content. Really,
Yep.
That's the work. And the other part of the work is figuring out what affiliate links to put on your site.
100%.
So when you think about the amount of effort of two people, how much work was going into just monetizing the content that was being created? Like, is it a 50-50? Is it a 60-40 in year one?
In year one, I think just because we were more focused back then, I think, on finding the merchants that would pay the highest payout, negotiating with those companies and saying, hey, we have established ourselves as the authority in this field. We're tastemakers. People come to our site to learn what products to buy based on our recommendations. So this should be worth more than the measly 3% you're offering, because we know that the markups on these products are significantly higher, and so work with us. So there was a lot of struggle with that. And then the content itself sort of came pretty naturally, because when you're talking about tastes, you know what your taste is like, and working in the industry, what the industry responds to, and you convey that to your readers. So that was pretty easy.
But I'm saying, I guess between the two of you, let's say you're theoretically working 40 hours or 100 hours a week, whatever, between the two of you,
Yeah.
or both of you, I'm trying to figure out what's the split between producing fresh content that readers want to read, and then manually finding advertisers, getting links, negotiating rates, placing them within the content. I mean, that's how you were doing it at first, right?
Absolutely. And there was a ton more work than actually curating the content itself.
Right. And see, that's the point I think that's very challenging for affiliates, is that it's hard enough to write blog posts if you're just by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2 a week, is that enough? Do I need to start writing 2 a day? Then I've got to actually learn about affiliate marketing and go out, find the advertisers on which networks, get the links, negotiate the rates, figure out the placements. And that I think is the hardest part from an advertiser's perspective. They'll see a site they like, maybe it gets okay traffic, but it has potential great content, and you want to start working with them, it's hard. It's hard for them to just produce the content. Now you're asking them to become a media manager. Now, of course, this is a selfish plug for you, but obviously that's part of what your technology does, is it's taking away some of that. How did you guys meet? How did that?
We met, so Ray Lyle actually, I believe, was a friend of yours. So VigLink is a company I started back in 2009, and not too long after that, about a year later, we actually ended up getting together with a competitor, Driving Revenue, which sort of did very similar stuff. They were very good at sales. We were very good at engineering. We got together, and the founder of that company was a guy called Ray Lyle, who was friends with Vlad, and I met him that way. And you know, what we saw with Vlad, I mean, I think Vlad is in the exceptionally lucky case where, you know, so clearly has an audience that advertisers want, that he can reach out to them and say, you know, I want a better rate and get it. I think certainly that doesn't happen right away. Certainly that's rare. And I think even in Vlad's case, you only have time and energy to do that to the top, you know, 25, 50, 100 merchants. And so, you know, when I was first looking at VigLink, we just, you know, we could see that you could make money from blogging, but the practice of affiliate marketing, the finding of the links, the inserting them, just seemed like so much work. Yeah. And it looked a lot like display had looked in the early days. You know, when you first ran display ads, you hard-coded in some creative, and that just ran on your site. And then there were ad servers, and then there were DSPs and SSPs. And so we saw an opportunity to, you know, apply some technology, and that's what we did.
So just kind of walk through like the user experience. If I'm going to PersBlog, I'm going to see some type of linking opportunity. Just to kind of give us a perspective of how that looks and feels to the consumer.
So VigLink technology, it's like a JavaScript library a publisher puts in their page, a bit like Google Analytics. You just install it and you can forget about it if you'd like. And we look for links that are already there, and we make sure they're paid links. So if you as an author, you're inserting some stuff, we'll make sure you get paid, and we'll go to the merchant and get the best possible deal from our sort of aggregated publisher volume. Alternatively, or not alternatively, optionally, we can insert links on your behalf. You know, so obviously that's a computer doing that. It's not quite as accurate as if a human does, but it's still very good, and it's, you know, it's no work. And so we link out to the people who will pay you for your traffic, and use a lot of computer science to do it really well.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, I think that's really the challenge here, is if you're going to start blogging, or if you're an advertiser and you want to work with a blog, having them just link to you is, if one advertiser came to you, you know, it's not enough, right? And then when you try to replicate working with an individual advertiser times 10 or 20, where now it starts to make sense from editorial content, and you don't want to write about one advertiser all the time. Probably the advertiser would love that, but you know what I mean?
It's not realistic.
You have to have that integrity. That's where I think the complexity comes in, and it's really a challenge for the bloggers to put really good content together and be passionate and be marketers for themselves, right? And real quick though, what did you guys do to build your traffic? You didn't buy advertising. You didn't do AdWords?
No, none of that. It was purely organic. I guess I'm old school like that I never felt like I wanted to push our site and our content down people's throats by means of, you know, paying money to have our site advertised somewhere. We just really focused on the content creation, and then had word of mouth work for us.
Did you engage in either your own PR or end up getting PR firms, like so that you're getting maybe Good Morning America or something to talk about you? Or
yeah, we briefly, for about 9 months or so, we worked with a PR company, but I guess it wasn't the right time for it yet. This was about 6 years ago or so. So eventually we dropped it and just really focused on letting, you know, the content speak for itself, and then having people who were enthusiastic about the subject at hand shared with their friends. Or Google naturally helped a great deal too, because people, you know, whenever you'd go, at one point I think we were even listed first for just searching for handbags. That was previously to the, you know, big updates, whatever, how many years ago, which was thrilling, you know. And so people would be finding us as the authority for bags through, you know, many different ways, but just had it organically grow.
So what about SEO? Are you guys actively doing that, or are you just letting Google have its way?
I used to work on it, just because I used to have a bit of a background. Now I don't know anything about it anymore. And it sounds maybe a bit silly to a lot of you to think that we're not prioritizing SEO, but we're in the fortunate position that Google understands that we're the right place to go for those types of queries.
Right.
So I've been yeah, there are some basic optimizations, but it's nothing groundbreaking. There's no, no special voodoo like applied to our site or to linking structures or whatever. No,
You're not losing
nothing.
sleep over your SEO ranking.
Absolutely not. No.
I think we obviously work with a lot of publishers who do this, and I'd say that the advice is what you would expect, right? It's to really focus on authentic content that drives legitimate audience engagement. They're excited to come read. I think the attempts to game Google, frankly, are getting increasingly difficult to the point of not being worth it. I think Google is really quite good now at sort of sniffing out what's real content and what's not. All the like automated feed-based sites that aren't really written by human beings, I don't think those really last or work very much anymore. Really building your audience and I think Vlad and Megan were in a great position where they have sort of authentic taste and vision that people wanted. And I think that's the core thing to really develop. And I'm certainly not arguing that, computer science can sort of replace people in this case, not at all, right? I think really what it is that people are the only ones who can write authentic content, who can appeal to an audience, who have a voice, who have taste. And so tasks that are not that, I think we should pass off to the computers because, the computers are better than you at making lists and spreadsheets and sort of tracking which things are clicking higher and, have better EPCs. I think that is not where your very limited time and attention span is best spent. It's really around, the creative juice that computers just can't do it all and you can.
You're like the computers that run these elevator systems.
Yeah, they need a little work.
This is the future. Soon every elevator system's going to be this way.
It's interesting. It's the lack of feedback. Like, I don't know that it actually takes any longer than other buildings, but it's the fact that there's no indication of it's on the way.
Coming,
Yeah, it's actually funny, really quick, that you brought this up about taste making. About 2 years ago, there was this big PR push for this product, and I forget whether it was Google developing it or another massive player on the internet, and they, proclaimed, this is how fashion will now be, promoted to the masses. You're just going to fill out a few questions, and then the computer is going to do all this wonderful thinking, and they're going to tell you exactly like what you should be wearing and where you should be buying it. Guess where that went? Nowhere. It vanished. Because it just doesn't, like you correctly said, you have to have that human element, and no computer can replace that. So
I think fashion is the most resistant to that, but even, if you look at the Wirecutter, those are completely commodity, products that can be bought by SKU number, but they have great, editorial, right? They really do a good job of sort of specifying you should buy this TV over that TV for, a particular reason. I don't think there's any vertical that doesn't benefit from, real authentic enthusiasm from the author. But I'd say fashion in particular, is not ripe for automation anytime soon.
Well, and when you think about starting this blog, and you said when you started it, you felt good, like it was going to be successful. I mean, I can't imagine how many blogs get started where they just are starting it almost to like, it's cathartic, right? I just want to get this out of me onto some cyberspace and share it with maybe no real intention of it going anywhere. So I'm just trying to understand. I mean, it's kind of like, you hear about someone, I started this business and Google just bought it for $1 billion. I mean, how do you, how do you figure that out? I mean, how do you, what advice would you give? I mean, you're dealing with handbags, and we're not talking accessories. Typically, some of these are $5,000 bags, right? It's not like, even higher. That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So it's not like, you've got mass consumer appeal. There's certainly this idea of, well, if, Kim Kardashian likes that bag, I just want to look at it and know about it and maybe get a knockoff. But you know what I mean? you go after such an audience, and like you said, first of all, a lot of those, the people that sell those bags, they don't like to see them discounted, right? If you have to ask the price, you can't afford it, right? They're not putting coupons out there, right? So, I mean, it just seems odd to me that that can be as big as it is.
It seems odd to me too. Day in, day out, I sort of wake up and I'm sort of wondering, like, how did I end up in this space? Look,
You're going for affluent women, right?
affluent women. Well, you know, it's not. I don't want you to get the impression that we're just catering to women who, you know, at a drop of a hat can, you know, buy that Hermes Birkin for 12 grand and upwards. Obviously, there are those people that are extremely affluent and just can spend the money, and that also showed, you know, when there was the financial crisis, you know, 2008, 2009, we didn't see any slowdown. We kept on, you know, increasing in traffic, increasing in revenue. So fortunately, we seem to be, you know, garnering or gathering the traffic that, you know, doesn't shy away from spending their money on that product. But as with everything, you know, whatever it is, no matter how micro and how niche it may seem to you, the internet is a massive and vast space. And there are billions of people online nowadays, and they all have their individual passions. And when you manage to create a site that, no matter how insignificant it may seem, and I've seen sites that are, like, there's this one forum in particular which is about just people who like architecture and buildings. Just buildings. And they're not all engineers, they're just people who have a preference for cool buildings. And it's one of the most massive forums out there with bajillions of posts. And you're thinking, wow, people care about that so much? Like, I would never let that mindset stop you from trying to start something in your own voice and channel your own passion just because you think, oh, you know, who's that really going to reach? Like, am I going to be able to build a business around it?
Well, again, even though these are high-end, you know, the thing is, you've got far more consideration on a purchase like that. It's not a, oh, I'm just going to go get a $12,000 bag for most people, and it's for some people it might be the one they buy, right? So they're saving up money. They decided, okay, I do want one really expensive, a $10,000 handbag or a $5,000 handbag.
Sure.
So now I do need a site like yours to make sure I'm not taking all this hard-earned money and making that one purchase and regretting it.
Well, there's one term that's frequently used on our forums in particular, where you have some incredible collections. I mean, women with these bags that their combined worth is, you know, probably GDP of Slovakia or something. It will blow your mind. But there's that term called the HG bag, which is the Holy Grail bag.
Yeah.
And, you know, the sort of interesting part is that, yeah, you will get to that point at some point where you get that Holy Grail bag, something that you've been lusting after for so long. But then as you engage in the community and continue reading our content, it sort of, you know, it sort of perpetuates that notion of that Holy Grail, because you get to that one point and then you're still excited over it and you cherish it for years, but then you want
What's
more.
the next one? No, I know. Believe me.
And I'm sure that all of us have at one point or another fell into the sort of like that trap where you go crazy over, you know, a watch, a car, a gadget, a whatever it may be, or a bag, the ladies who are in attendance, or a pair of shoes, and you think, oh man, those are just absolutely fantastic, but you just want more.
So let's talk about some more regulated stuff. What about FTC disclosures? Do you have that on your site? Do you take?
Yeah, some place in our terms of service, it says it in there that we're affiliating all links, but the reader typically doesn't hold them back from clicking through our links. I've never once really felt like that was an issue.
What about you, Albert?
We our inserted links. We have a tooltip that pops up that says, you know, shopping link inserted by VigLink, and we have a number of disclosure badges that you know, publishers can put on their site, and you know, we certainly tell them in the installation that the FTC, you know, guidelines, you know, really recommend them to clearly disclose a material relationship. You know, I think The guidelines are a little bit murky, right? And I think we just had the Performance Marketing Association put out some new guidelines this week. I'd say clearly the bright line is when you are being given free merchandise by a merchant. That is very clearly a bright line where you have a material relationship with that merchant and you need to disclose it. I think it's just one of those things where your readers need to understand what you're doing, and if you surprise them negatively or surprise the government negatively, bad things can happen. And I think kudos, frankly, to the government on this one. In that when I first came to Affiliate Summit in 2009, and I know Todd was first coming 10 years before that, I think, but there was a lot of credit card rebill offers and teeth whiteners and acai berries and frankly scams. I do actually think that the government did a good job of sort of cracking down on that. And at least from our perspective, it's really helped. We have investment from Google and other sort of like real venture capitalists, and I think it was hard to attract that kind of corporate interest to this field when it was seen as this den of iniquity, right? And I really do think that what we're doing is absolutely legitimate, right? We are promoting products in return for fees. People need to understand these products are being promoted, and I think there's nothing underhanded about that, but it does need to be disclosed, and it builds trust with your readers. I don't
think it's a downside. I don't think there's a downside to it. It's just
agreed.
A FYI.
It builds trust.
Yes,
it does build
agreed.
trust, and I think it's extremely important for the integrity as a publisher and maintaining that integrity to disclose, yes, this product was sent to us by Gucci, or it was given to us by Gucci. So just letting you all know, letting the reader know, like this is it. So my positive review of this product may be biased, but you'll be the judge, and here's what I think about it. But as long as you are transparent about where the product comes from and not try to swindle the reader, they would catch on, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. They'll feel like, this doesn't really seem
It's your voice, it's your style,
Right.
It's what you're really trying to be. I think that is important. So obviously I'm an advertiser, I'm dying to work with all these content affiliates. I use Google, I type in some keywords that show sites maybe 2, 3, 4 pages down that I suddenly say these look like content-driven sites that I should go partner with. I mean, you guys are obviously doing that right now. You're always trying to find more affiliates, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you, okay, so I'm just thinking about, I'm an advertiser. I know that you're on all the networks. So if I'm working with VigLink, I'm really working with lots of content sites. VigLink doesn't produce content. You're
That's
just
correct.
it's like I work with one affiliate that then syndicates their affiliate links in and takes care of paying those sites, right?
That's totally right.
So that's something to think about. So you're kind of like people go to an affiliate network to tap into thousands of affiliates. I'm tapping into one affiliate that's tapping into thousands of sub-affiliates, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, we have tens, hundreds of thousands of sites that run our code, and so an advertiser can come to us and say, we'd like to work with you. Here's our product feed, and we can start inserting those links, in sites across our network. And of course, we can only do it appropriately. And because we're paid CPA, it's pointless to insert a link in a place where it's not going to engage a user.
Right.
In a few cases, we're paid CPC, but generally, it only works if we find a great. So hypothetically, if the Home Depot came to us and said, we have a product feed, we can find mentions of their products or products they sell and create links pointing to them. And it's useless for SEO purposes, right? We're not creating Google juice for the Home Depot, but we can create traffic, to a merchant of engaged customers from content sites that matter. And I do think affiliate networks are starting to understand where you engage these advertisers, but where's the traffic you drive them? As you mentioned, the coupon sites, the loyalty sites, the cashback sites. Okay, those are easy to engage, but they generally drive your margin down a little bit. So they definitely have their place. But if you want new full price shoppers, where do you get them? You've got to go engage these sites, and if once you get them on the phone, the first thing you say is, okay, well, log into this affiliate network and copy paste all these URLs into your content. It just doesn't happen with any good flow. And so automating that, merchants tend to love us, and we need better tools around like, hey, I only want to target men in America, in the eastern part of America. Like, we need to get better and better at that. But really,
I
think
do geo-targeting based on countries.
Absolutely.
So that's the other thing to consider. If I'm having traffic coming to my site from the UK, showing them a US offer might not make me any money, right? So you can dynamically in real time decide a better merchant to show based on who the visitor is, and even multiple advertisers that are appropriate for that link could potentially, you could figure out based on sheer volume, machine learning, this is probably going to earn the most money today.
Yeah. That's actually our favorite trick, right? When we can spot a link to a commodity product, a product that's sold by more than one merchant, and we can say, there's 10 merchants.
Diapers.
Yep.
Something like a
Diapers.
simple thing, right?
There's 10 merchants who sell this product in that locale. Let's figure out who's going to pay the most for the click, and let's re-render the link to point to the most lucrative merchant. Obviously, the publisher has to opt in, so they know we're modifying their links. But yeah, we can effectively drive up the price, right? And my favorite thing is to have a merchant say, hey, we got more traffic last month, where'd it go? And we're like, oh, your competitor came in and paid more for it than you did. If you'd like it back, you can have it. It just, the price went up.
But again, if one advertiser wants to pay me 5%, another advertiser wants to pay me 10, but the guy paying 10 is converting at a fourth of what the 5 is, right? The machine can figure that out as well. So it's not always about, it's about, does this site actually convert once the traffic goes there? And if you're an affiliate or an advertiser, one thing you need to think about, you guys probably look at it this way, every time a click leaves your site to go to somebody else, an advertiser, you're looking at, okay, I made all this money, you're kind of backing it into an effective CPC, right? When I send you 1,000 clicks or 100 clicks, how much does that earn me on average per click? I'm not getting paid per click, because you just mentioned that. I want to make sure there's not a CPC deal here, but that's how you optimize, and that's where affiliates look at, this advertiser makes me more money based on the traffic that I send it. They're more, they're getting more mind share with me because they can make me more money.
So that is exactly right, and I think this doesn't have to be a pitch for VigLink, right? You can do this yourself with a spreadsheet, right? You can essentially measure, okay, I sent N clicks off to this advertiser that has a 10% commission rate, but if I take the dollars they paid me divided by the number of clicks, it comes out to a lower EPC than another merchant that has maybe a lower commission rate but a higher conversion rate. Amazon doesn't have the highest commission rate around, but definitely has a good conversion rate. So you can do that math and decide where to link. I think where it gets really hard to do as a human being is to say, okay, let's run that test separately, split testing for European traffic versus American traffic, splitting by mobile traffic versus web traffic, and certainly when you get into all the cells of that spreadsheet, like what about European mobile traffic? It becomes very challenging to do by hand, and that's really where software is best suited.
Yeah, and now you guys use a blend, right? You don't just use VigLink, and it's evolved over time. Correct. So why don't you talk about some of the other advertiser relationships that you have where you're able to make money? Because we talked about some of these obviously in our pre-call, so I know about
Yeah, sure. So we have wonderful affiliate relationships with, I would say, 20 or so merchants that we've established over the years. We have, that would include something like Bloomingdale's, something like Net-a-Porter, something like Saks. The major fashion merchants that are the strongest in the space, and that we see also, not only pay out the best, but they also provide the best customer service. Now, following up on what Oliver was saying.
Customer service to you or to your customers?
To the customers,
okay.
which is also extremely important because, there might be a store A that, as you mentioned, will pay out a higher percentage for us, which is obviously intriguing. However, when I'm seeing and when I'm reading on our forums where people are saying, yeah, I don't really like that company because they have a terrible return policy.
Yeah, and I'm going to can't ever get in touch with anybody.
They never get in touch with anybody, or they ship really late, or whatever it may be. Then I'm going to think about it twice to really continue linking through to them, because I want the experience for the reader to be, I want them to be directed to places where I know they're going to have a great shopping experience. So, So we manage basically with our small team that we have, we manage those relationships very closely. Over the years, we've also managed to start, in the last 2.5 years or so, start striking direct advertising deals too, that just go beyond the CPC or CPA model, and it's just, you get this and that much exposure in those areas. We're going to do this and that much social coverage. We're going to include your products in, and it's all disclosed, obviously, in blog posts, and give you that coverage. So that's been something we've been transitioning into, just in order to build a more robust business altogether. But
Well, I want to talk on that. So I'm either a handbag manufacturer or a seller of handbags, like a Macy's or Bloomingdale's.
Yeah.
And so we maybe have a launch or something, or just in general, right? So it could be we want to introduce a new product, we want to launch it alongside everywhere else. We want, run a site on you for a week or two.
Right.
So it's more of like a flat deal. We're going to pay you 10, 20, 30 grand. You're going to give us all these placements for this
Correct.
time.
Yeah, especially as you mentioned, when there is like a major push for, say, a particular line of bags. Like they really want, the readers or enthusiasts for fashion to be aware of, this new fringe bag line that came out. That is the best way to go about getting as much exposure as possible, and targeted exposure when you sit down with us and you negotiate a direct ad deal like that. I mean, that goes well beyond affiliate.
Right. And then you also do general display, which I can see
Yeah.
some of this on your site now. So you work with DSPs, and they basically dynamically serve the most appropriate ad based on your impressions.
Yep.
So you're getting a revenue stream that way.
We used to work with AdSense very early on. Then about 2 years after, it was sort of flooded with Chinese replicas, which for us is a big concern, because we take pride in only marketing the real deal. There's obviously a ton of replicas. We don't want to have anything to do with them. So we had to drop them. We worked with an ad network for a while. Then that sort of degraded over time. Now we're back to DSP and just filling in remnant inventory with AdSense, and it's working out pretty well.
And then you get people to opt into your own email, so you
Yes.
email your visitors a newsletter or
Yeah,
special deals.
We have a list of about close to 220,000 or so subscribers, and we push out between 2 to 3 newsletters every week with new offers and pointing them to our editorial pieces, like the original content that we create, and so that's also.
So you also have a Twitter feed,
Yes.
Pinterest.
Pinterest, we're starting to build out more. We actually, just a few months ago, we brought on a girl that is basically spearheading our entire social media strategy, and building that out was an entirely separate beast. Once you start realizing that you have to create the content differently for those different platforms, and for Twitter it has to be different and scheduled differently than for Facebook, than for Pinterest and Instagram and stuff like that. So that's a full-time job.
So you're sending out email 2-3 times a week.
Yep.
How often are you guys producing content to your site? What's that sweet spot? I mean, obviously 10 articles a day, it gets hard to read.
Yeah, 10 articles a day is too much, because then you start diluting it, and the user's attention just kind of goes away, especially for a site like ours that's so micro niche, if you will. We've sort of settled at about 5 articles per day, and a good mixture of covering shopping, covering new product launches, covering some of the original content that we do, where we do interviews or photo shoots with people who are in the entertainment industry or the fashion industry, or just sort of branching out and just sort of trying to figure out a way to keep it fresh and interesting.
So in that first year, what was the content production like? Was it 1 article a day, 2 articles a day? What were you guys doing?
It was sort
then?
of like,
1 a week,
when
whenever
I
you got to it?
Yeah, it's sort of like when I feel like it, and then I had to sort of poke my then girlfriend, now wife Megan. I'm like, hey, let's do some more content, and then it would sort of ebb and flow. But now it's all insanely structured.
Was there a tipping point? Like, you guys are writing, putting content up, you've got some affiliate links, obviously brands weren't coming to you to do product launches yet, right?
Yeah.
And something where like your traffic just suddenly, something happened. Was there any
Oh yeah,
tipping point?
there was about 6 months in. It was mind-boggling to me, and I still remember like it was yesterday. I was in Germany working on my master's degree. My wife was still in her undergrad in Columbus. Go Bucks, yay! And all of a sudden, our traffic, I was 6 hours ahead, so I'm seeing the Eastern Standard Time traffic, and I'm seeing just like this insane spike, and our server was kind of struggling. I was talking to the hosting people, and they're like, yeah, all of this traffic seems to be coming from Yahoo. Like, we don't know what's up. And then Megan's dad, who works in finance, and his homepage was set to yahoo.com, or like my Yahoo, like the content aggregation. Our blog was featured as a recommended RSS feed of the day. And that's when we're just like, whoa, like, this is cool. Like, someone is taking notice, and they are considering us to be sort of like an authority.
Right.
And that's when we knew that it was, like, that was the major tipping point. That was for sure.
And Yahoo got rid of that.
Yeah, they did. Well, rest in peace.
So nobody tried to get listed on that page that doesn't exist anymore.
Google killed the RSS reader too.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple sort of, upshot lessons here, right? Paul Graham is a guy who started a thing in the Valley called Y Combinator, which is like a way that really small companies get started up. And he has a couple pieces of wisdom that I think really apply here. One is, rather do something that a small number of people really love than something that a large number of people kind of like, right? And I think, Vlad is a great case there where, if you can find 100 people who are just super enthusiastic about what you're doing, or let's start with 10, or, frankly, even like 3 or 4, right? If you can find 3 or 4 people who are just, when are you doing your next post because I'm so excited to read it, that is a good sign, right? I think if you have 1,000 people who are mildly interested, that is a bad sign. I'd say 2 is do things at the beginning that don't scale at all, right? So, I think going into your own forum and personally responding to every post and like checking out the customer service of the handbags, like that, obviously you can't build a huge multinational business around that, but it's a great way to start, right? And a great way, it is something you can do that the big companies can't. And we see this time and time again where, our customers have some tiny little, niche that gets people excited. And I think Vlad said it earlier, that at internet scale, even a tiny niche, if you can get good penetration in that tiny niche, it's actually a pretty big business. Certainly big enough to support, sort of a blogger and a small staff. And so I think, as Vlad said, don't worry too much if the niche you're focusing on seems quite small. Obviously, you can overdo that. But I'd say, it can be quite small if you get real enthusiasm and genuine penetration in that niche. You're definitely onto something. And I'd say the last lesson really is around just like observing the data and doing more of what's working, right? I think really, I'm actually going to ask you after about like the schedules that matter for Twitter are different than the schedules for Pinterest. Like there's a lot of, think about how you would start to notice that, right? Where you say like, well, I've noticed that, Twitter does best if I publish it at 9 a.m. or something. And I'm interested, maybe you want to speak a little bit to that?
It was, it was a pretty mind-opening experience because in previous years we sort of thought, oh yeah, let's, Twitter in particular, we thought, what seems to be working well in fashion is if you have really a sort of like you built this character, this individual around your Twitter feed. And there was a lot of off-topic chatter and so on and so forth. But then we realized that it wasn't really growing at the rate that we wanted to be, so we took a step back, brought on a girl who's doing a fantastic job at it, and we then decided, let's structure this more as a magazine. Let's see how that catches on. And then we started posting at different times and different content at different times too, and then looking at the click-through rates, and especially for affiliates too, when a sale would go up. Do we push it, right as it goes up, or do we look at when are users most likely to engage with their Twitter feeds and push it out, multiple times, maybe even a day, keep on repeating or sort of like reusing previous content and see how users responded to that. And I wish I could talk about it more in detail, but I personally have never been on Twitter, so I don't know much about it. That's what we have our people to get it done. But it was just a mind-opening experience an eye-opening experience to realize that you really have to think about a strategy for that and what becomes, what gets more shared and when do people click through and so on and so forth. So
I just think that the wisdom of observing what's working in practice and doing more of that versus what you intuitively think would work,
exactly.
is, and multiply that times 10 years and it puts you where you are.
So, tip, I'm an advertiser. I still want to go out and find some blog sites. You guys do that?
We do, absolutely.
Help me. How can I do it myself?
Well, I think simple things like Google. I think Googling for results that you think are, keywords you advertise on. Go find the places where you're advertising, where your AdWords show up, and then look for the organic sites and make a list of the ones that show up high and contact them.
How many pages deep should I go? We
go 3 or 4. I think anything beyond 4 probably gets no traffic at all.
Right.
And it's a trade-off, obviously, between breadth of keywords and depth for any given set.
So how do you? I'm one of those results. You go to the contact me, and hopefully I have that link on my blog, and I'll actually take time to respond to you.
We do that.
What do you say? Hey, we love your content. We think we could help you make some money with it. Can we talk?
Essentially, yes. Obviously it gets a little more refined than that over time, but I would say, we did dabble with automation and reaching out. That's a killer. Don't do it.
Delete.
Yeah, people can just smell when it's a computer on the other
Yeah.
end versus a human being. And not only do they delete it, but they blacklist you and they talk crap about you in the forums.
Right.
Definitely don't do that. So have an individual human being reach out and be genuine and say, I saw X, and I'd love to talk to you about advertising.
Or here's a site like yours that we're working with. They're making money.
Yep.
You could be making money. We just want to see if there's an opportunity to help you do that, right?
Absolutely. And I think if they're, so VigLink is sort of like a meta. We aren't specifically in any vertical, right? We sort of make money across all merchants. But I think if you're a specific advertiser, it's probably easier, right? If you're like, hey, I see you're really excited about, home furnishings. I represent the Home Depot, and I'd like to talk to you. That seems like a pretty easy email.
That'd be a weird email for, I think, a lot of bloggers to think that company's really contacting. It'd almost be like, this is a scam. It's like getting a call from the president or something.
Yep.
You're
Well,
like, you're not
Vlad,
really.
you've probably had this experience. But when was the first brand who reached out to you, and you're like, oh my God,
Did you believe it?
they're calling us?
Yeah, I think it was actually Net-a-Porter, which they had and I think it still might be a private program to this day. Luxurious, sort of seemed a bit aloof, from our perspective at the time. They were like, wow, they're selling all this hyper expensive stuff, and they're reaching out to us, and they would like for us to be like, it seemed like such a privilege. But I wanted to, touch on what Oliver was saying. One thing that definitely, if you're an advertiser and you want us to consider you, address the person by their name. Don't write, dear publisher, blah, blah, blah. No, insta-delete. Don't send the same email to the different email addresses that we have listed on our Contact Us page. There's a reason why it's segmented. There is press for PR pitches. There's info for miscellaneous stuff. There is advertising at pursblog.com for such matters. And if you send the same email to all 6 email addresses, we're no more likely to get back in touch with you. It's just not going to happen because you can't read the manual. Read the manual. It takes 20 seconds. Familiarize yourself with who is at the other end, and then personalize it. Say, hey, I really like the coverage that you guys did last week for that feature. It was really cool. Here's what I have to offer. Can we hop on a call?
Yeah, I think less is more always in a community.
Yeah.
Be very, here's what I want to. I like this. I want to talk about this. Can we talk?
100%.
So Similar Web is another good resource. So it's you go and you put in any website, and it'll tell you other sites that appear the same or that appear similar from a machine learning perspective.
Similar to you, but similar to maybe to some of your some content sites you like, right?
Yeah,
That's
it'll look for keywords in the content and match, and it does a reasonable job. So I think if you found one you like, you can find others that way. There are a lot of tools out there. Certainly, Compete and Alexa, give you long lists.
Yeah, and just remember, finding a great blog with a great writer and great content, if it's not getting any traffic, there might not also be worth a lot of conversation around it. So, I always say there's kind of 2 blogs, 2 types of bloggers. There's people that love blogging and there's not a lot of traffic, not much money, and then there's sites like you where there's a lot of ways to make money, and it's probably going to cost you more than but you're getting real traffic. But we want to open this up to some questions because I know we only got about 10 or 12 minutes. So I saw you go right there. Is there a mic that he needs to use or no? Okay, I'll repeat your question.
I have a question for Vladimir.
Yeah.
You guys market or you monetize your people coming to your website through affiliate offers, but do you do any off-site monetization, doing retargeting that's not coming from your brand, and maybe set up a disassociated brand to say these are affluent women who are spending money, and we can market other things like travel and anything else? Do you also do that?
Well, we do have, on our forums have, sort of evolved over time from being just merely a discussion about designer accessories and handbags and the major fashion brands, contemporary and luxury alike, to becoming more of a lifestyle site and sort of catering, to jewelry and to other sort of interests that, an affluent woman who has tons of time on her hands, maybe not. So we've tried to sort of do that a little bit, but other than that, we've been sticking mostly with really just targeting our niche and maintaining that position as the authority in it.
Well, I mean, if you did it disassociated with your brand, so you
Yeah.
created the insert random name and then
Sure.
retargeting, you would still know that the data was accurate and it wouldn't be detracting from that.
That's certainly a good idea. Just another thing to add to our to-do list, which is lengthy, but yeah.
Any other questions? Yep.
For Oliver, so what work have you done to align merchants with a publisher who is principally or solely video based?
Solely, so we do not yet do in-video ads. There are a few providers who do that. I think Cool, Coull, is a good example. They're out of the UK, and I'm sure there are some others. And they do sort of overlays, and try to, they attempt to understand what the video is about. I think it's actually mostly from looking at the keywords around the video rather than parsing the video stream itself. And they overlay offers on top of the video. Obviously, it's quite challenging to do in an automated fashion to look at video and understand what it's about. So I'd say we largely have focused on text at this point. We certainly have aspirations around image and video, but it's a pretty hairy problem. Video in particular is very intensive computationally. I mean, we have a very large AWS bill, or hosting bill, but I mean, I think when you get into video, it's going to go crazy.
Yeah. We got about 5 minutes left. Anybody else? You have a question? No, you guys just fixing your hair.
We're an advertiser in the travel industry, and we reach out to a lot of travel bloggers. But unfortunately, we get a fair amount of people we reach out to, personal users who are so stuck on PPC, and they're not really familiar with the whole affiliate route in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have, if it's not broke, don't fix it mentality.
Sure.
How would we, I guess, convince, for lack of a better word, tell them this could be a viable option for you?
So wait, you're saying that the affiliates are just using AdSense or something to make money?
Yeah.
And they think that they should just be paid on clicks versus, which is not transparent, right? It's just stick it on there and see what turns up. But I just say from my advice, there are tools, and we have these tools and some advertisers use them, is they will say, okay, I'll pay you a percent of sale, let's say 10% of the sale, but I'll guarantee that you make 25 cents per click. So it kind of does the computation at the end of the month and says, okay, the effective CPC was 22 cents, so there's this extra bonus that gets them to 25 on the rev share. But the other thing I would point out, I think you've probably heard this, is that sometimes content sites, especially they're really top of funnel, high consideration. And so as a consumer interacts with a blog based on the content and they love it and they're like, okay, this makes me want to buy, then they might go through a loyalty or a coupon and deal site. And so they don't see a commission on maybe half the clicks that end up converting, or a quarter of the clicks, or even less. And so what I've seen some advertisers do is come to them and say, I'll pay you 100% of sale, because you're not going to get credit on every one. And when I look at my mix, I got an affiliate channel. Let's say I'm doing 1,000 transactions a day, and I know that my effective cost of sale is averaging 8. Right? I have some guys at 10, I have some guys at 4, but even this affiliate at 100% doesn't skew that. It's another thing to consider, and it may get more traction there, or even just doing a test on a CPC, and you back it out to an effective percent of sale, and go, look, if this guy would rather get paid on CPC and he's not sending fraudulent clicks, then at least it's still back. To me, it's still 8% of sale, right?
So this was actually like a huge eye-opening thing to me when I started in this business. So I came out of business school. You like to view things, with in sort of a math way, and so I thought, okay, CPA should, in theory, pay more because you're taking the risk, right? Like if you're allowing the risk to be shifted onto you rather than getting paid per click, it should offer more. The truth is that generally doesn't happen. Typically, advertisers who pay CPC also pay more and take the risk, right? In the CPA case, they often pay less and don't take any risk. And so I've honestly become convinced over time it's just about the power dynamic, right? Where a publisher who can say, I want you to take the risk and I want you to pay me more, if they're in a situation where you want them more than they want you, they can make that deal, right? I think when it's the other way around, you can say, well, you take the risk, and I'm going to on average pay you less. So it was really surprising to me that CPA programs, at least in the retail sector, tend to pay less than CPC programs, which was a surprise to me. Because you'd think of all the stuff around risk and bad traffic, but even the CPC programs, they all adjust their CPC on a daily basis or even more often, depending on the yield of the traffic. So really, I think every advertiser backs it out to a cost of sale, and they're willing to pay X percent, of revenue, and you can model it as CPC or CPA. So I would say, if there's a publisher you really want to work with who insists on being paid CPC, maybe pay them CPC, and just adjust the CPC so that it nets out to whatever your target cost of sale is.
And you're also not, I would say, look, I'm not telling you to take AdSense down. I'm saying add this and make more money, right? It's like getting a second job. You're not quitting one and starting another. So sometimes they'll try it. Just get them to run a test. Sometimes you could just say, look, I'll just give you $100 if you put the links up for a week, and plus I'll give you a rev share, and let's see what comes out of it. There's a lot of different strategies there. Another question?
Vladimir, you said you had about 20 merchants and brands that you were working mostly with.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all your direct relationships.
Correct.
And how did you sell them? Was this personal contact, go to visit, presentation, or was it all sort of on the phone, fill out a form?
Sure. I think early on it was over the phone for sure. Then 4 years ago, we actually relocated here to New York City, and all of the major fashion brands are here in the city. So it's very easy, to just do face-to-face and really maintain those relationships face-to-face, which is so much more effective.
But it's very similar to this kind of, they call it the 80-20 rule, right? Most advertisers have about 20, 30 affiliates that drive 90% of their affiliate revenue.
Yeah.
Most affiliates have 10, 20, 30 advertisers, even though they may promote hundreds or thousands, that drive 90% of their volume. So, what they've done is kind of blended a lot of great revenue opportunities, right? The direct partners that mean the most to them, that they can do the most with, getting the automation that takes tons of human labor out of the picture and automatically monetizes tons of great content, and then also worked with some DSPs to fill in some inventory and do some direct kind of product launch or special tenancy type or one-time deals. It's kind of like, everybody wishes they could be in the position you are, because all that hard work now, as you said, the control is shifted back to the publisher, right? If I want to be on your site, it's not like, wow, I can't believe you called me. It's like, get in line. A little bit, right?
Yeah, but sure. But
you've got the eyeballs now that people want. Where before, you just wanted to be approved into their affiliate program.
Look at me, please work with me. Like, pay me a few % if I send you the shoppers. And now it's like you said,
you're in the driver's seat.
In the driver's seat and get in line, but it's a very fortunate position to be in for sure.
Are you getting the advantage of their buying cycles? So are you 6-9 months ahead of the season?
Pretty much, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're now. We have this great campaign coming in October, which is something that we coined last year called National Handbag Day, and it sounds pretty funny. And at first, when it was proposed to me, I was just like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And this only started last year, and everybody jumped on it. everybody within the fashion industry jumped on it, especially in their social channels. It was incredible. And we started basically, back in February, we started, negotiating deals for coverage for something that happens on October 10th. So.
Unfortunately, we're over time. We can stay, I think, for a little bit. If anybody has questions, wants to come up and get our cards or talk to us, we're happy to help. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Vlad.
Oh, that was great.